Okay. Hello, everyone. It is nighttime per usual. Sorry, I'm just setting up here. But I decided we were gonna do something a little different, a little new. Currently I'm trying to set up. I'm just trying to see what it looks like on stream. Oh, hi, Arcfiend. How's it going? Oh, it's like so good to see you all just all of a sudden. Not used to having people come in all of a sudden. But yeah, as you can see, we have like a new setup here. I'm just kind of testing it right now. I don't know if it's like, okay, your body hurts. What did you do today? Do you like go to work or something? I need to take these earplugs out. Yeah, I know, I have to keep it on theme, you know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm taking my earplugs out. You got called in to work? Wasn't planning to work today? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm just still kind of setting up, just trying to see like what's going on. But today, I thought we'd do something a little different. Oh, you didn't get called in from work? Oh, you got called in from me, or that's what you're probably referencing. See, that's the thing. I don't really recognize when people are like trying to be a little cheeky on chat because I can't recognize it. But let me know. But we are going to be reading. Oh, okay. You gotta tell me the story then, so I'm not confused. But it's so weird seeing my hands on camera. Like, I didn't think I'd ever do this on stream ever. I thought I'd just continue doing like art stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually looking at books to buy. Okay, well, here's some books for you. These books are pretty short, as you can see, around 200 pages. So these are doable. But the reason why I brought both out and not just like one was because I wasn't sure how long this book was gonna last, like for the whole stream. I don't know if it's gonna take the whole 2 hours, because for me, when it comes to reading, I like shotgun books. So this is like a good, like, I can read this in a day kind of thing. You know, depending on the day. So we have Brave New World by Huxley. This is an iconic book. It's like this whole like dystopia kind of thing. Where it's kind of like a comedy kind of thing. Also, I shake my leg, so maybe the camera might be shaking as well when I shake my leg. And then we have The Nest by Kenneth Opel. I actually read this one already, so I thought maybe just using something that I've like already read is like, but not like tutorial ones. Stories told through art. Okay, so you don't mind a challenge. Are you into fantasy at all? Because it maybe depends on like the genre that you're into. Like, I could probably suggest something. Yeah, but I'm not too versed. Like for fantasy, I think Mistborn is really great, or just Brandon Sanderson books in general. Like a lot of people suggest the Wheel of Time series, but that's like a huge like series to get into. I'm into cyberpunk stuff and mostly reading wise and horror. Okay, yeah, I had some horror suggestions. I literally have it on my Goodreads. I don't know if I should pull my Goodreads up. Man. There are some horror. Oh, House of Leaves. That's a really good horror book. That's really iconic. Uzumaki Junji Ito. Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, but House of Leaves is a really good one. Dante's Inferno. That's a really good one. That's kind of like a historical horror where it's like, no, not a historical horror. I don't know. Dante's Inferno is a really good one. There are some really niche ones. Oh my god, I literally had a list. I don't know if I should pull up my Goodreads. I'm not sure. House of Leaves is that one that inspired my house. Oh yeah. I've actually talked to someone about my house on like a last stream, or like a stream from like a month ago, and they said I should definitely actually do like the Doom like mod instead of just like watching the video on it. But like I'm so squeamish about those things, so I don't really like I don't even like try to. It was insane to me. Yeah, I watched like maybe a quarter of that, but I didn't want. But I was like so scared of it. Like I'm very like a huge scaredy cat when it comes to like online horror stuff. So I was just like, even watching this in the morning was too much for me, even though there's like daylight outside. Oh, and number two is like if my jacket has dog hair on it, like I have a dog, so is it like a fleece jacket is like the most dog attracted jacket you can have. I was scared to figure out what would happen, yeah. But if you were wondering about like good horror, there's a lot of good like YouTube videos, like talking about some horror books that you can try out, because that's where I found a lot of my like horror recommendations. I haven't read them yet. I actually have House of Leaves sitting in my bookshelf right now. I just have not touched it. Actually, my favorite, I think you already know this guy. He's like a little comic guy on YouTube. And then suddenly the whole game changed in like 15 minutes. Yeah, I watch a lot of horror for someone who's scared usually. Yeah, it's like the feeling of being like scared and shocked. It's like very thrilling, and so you kind of get like addicted to that. But Man Carrying Thing, he does like, you probably know him. He does like a lot of comedy stuff. But if you follow him, he originally started as like a book reviewer because he like studied English or whatever, and he has a lot of great suggestions for books. I think a really good like horror book would be like Butcher's Crossing, because it's like not a horror one. It's just like the stuff that happens in there is like kind of hard to read, kind of thing. Which I would actually love to read that on stream if I can like find find it at a bookstore, or if I have the money to like get it on Amazon. That's some of my favorite kind. Yeah, like the kind of disturbing stuff where you're like, is this like horror, or you're like, what is it, psychological kind of thing? You don't like when you're like, you're thinking and you're like, I don't know what's going on, and that's what's making me scared. Things grounded in more realism is the scary stuff, for sure. I think that's why people are so into true crime, right? Because it's like real life stuff happening. Even like Richard Ramirez freaks me out to this day, even though he's like died years ago. Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of scared starting. Like I don't even know how to start. I think my chat is a little messed up. Hold on. Just fix that. Okay, yeah. My chat logo was like underneath my chat, I think. So I think I fixed it. Not into true crime. Yeah, it's a little hard doing like getting into true crime because it deals with like real people. But I mean, I'm not saying that I've never delved into it, especially during the beginning of true crime. I kind of delved into it, and like people like that, like Richard Ramirez was the first people that I've discovered. But obviously, yeah, for like ethic reasons, I try to stop watching all that stuff. Just not enjoyable. Yeah, honestly, the aspect that it was actually real life. It's like, yeah, like fantasy horror, it's like, okay, that was scary, but like nothing actually happened compared to like real life people being hurt. Unless it's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but that is fiction, and real life. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm actually going to start with Kenneth Opel because I already read this. And I just wanted to maybe read this one. So maybe I should like start the stream. But it's good to kind of have a little warm up. Just constantly checking like my screen, making sure it's okay. So Kenneth Opel, The Nest. This one I would describe as something that like stuff happens, and honestly I forgot. It's like not really disturbing. It's just kind of like, what the hell happened, and then you kind of move on. Yeah, but I kind of want to do like a reading stream because by the way, I hate hardcover books. I am a paperback person for life because they're cheaper and it's just like easier to hold. And I actually like destroying my books. But I'm going to take the jacket off because I hate this. Stupid. It looks kind of cool though. Whatever. Yeah, hardcovers are like pretty on your shelf, but I hate holding them, especially if they have a jacket, because I have to think about the jacket and I have to think about how I'm holding it. Like the contrast between the hardness and like the paper, I hate. I like to have a nice mold in my hand, you know what I'm saying? And again, I like to have my books kind of destroyed, so yeah, jackets are so annoying. But I wanted to do some reading streams because I've been kind of out of my reading phase, you know? And I just wanted to kind of like get back into it while kind of hitting two birds with one stone. Yeah, for sure. Actually, one book I am currently reading technically is the Jeanette McCurdy book. I'm glad my mom died. I'm like in the middle of it, but hopefully just kind of like doing this stuff will kind of get me back into reading it. I was thinking of reading that one on stream, but like sometimes I feel like there are books where I just kind of want to read to myself and not just like on stream. I say while looking at books, well, I don't think I have many. I say while looking at books, which I don't have many words, if any. Sorry, as you can tell by the the title of the freaking stream, like I literally like I can't speak. Hold on, I gotta speak to this myself. Yeah, so yeah, sorry, yeah. Um yeah, I usually suggest books like these because obviously there's like 200 words in it and like it's not as intimidating, so you can just kind of like build up your reading habit and not just go into something that's very intimidating. But yeah, just kind of like an ASMR stream. Just do whatever you're doing while I'm reading this, I guess. Maybe I'll start a book club, who knows. And also I did like a little test run too. Like it's so hard. Like I like these gloves. It's kind of hard flipping the pages though. So I'm just like trying to be careful I'm not ripping anything. Okay, the nest, Kenneth Opal. Very cute. I would love to read something like Mistborn or something. Here's some pretty artwork. Because that's like one of my favorite books. I definitely love Mistborn because you can just read the first book and you don't have to delve into like the second one or whatever. It's a trilogy, but you don't have to finish the trilogy, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this is the reading part. Beware, I hate my narration voice because it sounds so pretentious. And like I don't want to do that. I kind of sound pretentious when I'm like reading. Oop, I moved my camera. And these are probably small, but hopefully just like listening to me is okay. Before I got itch my eye. God, even my body's telling me, don't do this. It's making me do things that I don't want to do. Do I have a bookmark in front of me? Or like a makeshift bookmark that I can use just in case? Let me go get a bookmark. Hold on. This is gonna flip. This is gonna flip. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna go get a bookmark. Okay, headphones on. Yeah, this is the bookmarks that you usually get at like the local bookstore here in Canada. Very small local bookstore place. Like people really go because there's just like huge indigos that you can go to now. Oh wait, my dragon. I need my dragon. Whoops. Hold on. Eh. I knew something bad was gonna happen. I have like 30 different ones because I bought a few on Amazon thinking it was just like 3 or something, and they actually had a bunch in the box. Well, gotta start, right? Sometimes it's like hard too because it's like, what if all these 30 books are like trash? You like waste your time. How long have I been going on for now? Oh my god, it's been like 15 minutes. I haven't even started. Oh my god. People in the VOD are going to be like so mad. Okay. God, I'm so nervous. Never done this. The first time I saw them, I thought they were angels. What else could they have been? With their pale gossamer wings and the music that came off them, and the light that hailed them, right away there was this feeling that they'd been watching and waiting, and that they knew me. They appeared in my dreams the 10th night after the baby was born. Everything was a bit out of focus. I was standing in some kind of beautiful cave, with shimmering walls like white fabric, lit from outside. The angels were all peering down at me, floating in the air. Only one came close, so luminous and white. I don't know how, but I knew it was a she. Light flowed from her. She was very blurry, not at all human looking. There were huge dark eyes and a kind of mane made of light. And when she spoke, I couldn't see a mouth moving, but I felt her words, like a breeze against my face, and I understood her completely. "We've come because of the baby," she said. "We've come to help." Oh my god, look at me. There was something wrong with the baby, but no one knew what. Not us, not the doctors. After a week in the hospital, Mom and Dad were allowed to bring the baby home, but almost every day they had to go back for more tests. Whenever Mom and Dad returned, there were new bits of information, new theories. It wasn't like a virus, something the baby would just recover from. It wasn't that kind of sickness. It might have been a kind of sickness that never got better. Nice visual. He might not talk. He might not walk. He might not be able to feed himself. He might not even live. When the baby was first born, Dad came home to tell me about his condition. That there was something wrong with his heart, and his eyes, and his brain, and that he probably needs surgery. There were a lot of things wrong with the baby. And there was probably stuff Mom and Dad weren't telling me. And they were definitely not telling Nicole anything at all. She thought the baby was getting all its shots at once, and that it was just normal for a newborn to be visiting the hospital every day, and I often staying overnight. At night, I sometimes overheard my parents talking words and little bits of sentences. Very rare. Or prognosis. They don't know. Degenerative? No one knows for sure. Congenital? We were too old. We should have tried. Nothing to do with that. The doctor couldn't say. Certainly won't develop normally. Doesn't know. No one knows. During the day, Mom and Dad kept looking things up in books and on the computer, reading. Sometimes it seems to make me happy. Other times sadder. I wanted to know what they were reading and learning, but they didn't talk about it much. I had my angel dream in my head, but I kept it to myself. I knew the dream was stupid, but it made me feel better. It was a bad summer for wasps. Everyone said so. We usually got them in August, but this year they were early. Dad had even put up his fake paper nets. Not that they would work that well anyway. One year we tried those liquid traps, half filled with lemonade to lure the wasps inside so they get stuck and drown. They piled up and up. I hated wasps, but even I didn't like looking at them in their soggy mass graves, the few survivors climbing over the dead bodies, trying in vain to climb free. It was like a vision of hell from that old painting I've seen in the art gallery and never forgotten. Anyway, there were plenty of yellow jackets swimming around in our table, mostly around the pitcher around iced tea. I kept an eye on them. It was Sunday and we were all sitting out on the back deck. Everyone was tired. No one talked much. The baby was having a nap in his room, and the baby monitor was still on the table, with the volume turned up so we can hear every breath. And snuffle. We drank iced tea with the umbrella shading us. Nicole was on the lawn, where Mom had spread out a big blanket for her. She was storming a Lego castle with some action figures, and had her knights and her big box of Legos and her toy telephone. She loved that telephone. It was plastic and old-fashioned, and you can actually had to dial the numbers with a kind of transparent wheel. It used to be Dad's when he was little, and it wasn't busted up or anything. Dad said he'd been very careful with his toys. Suddenly, Nicole broke off from her attack on the castle and picked up the toy phone as if it had rung. She had a quick conversation, laughed once, then frowned like a doctor getting very serious news. She said, "Okay," and hung up. "How's Mr. Nobody?" I called out to her. "Fine," Nicole said. Mr. Nobody was a family joke. About a year ago, just before Mom got pregnant, we just get a last one phone call a day and it was just silence. Whenever we answered, there was no one there. Who was it? It was nobody. Dad complained to the phone company and they said they'd look into it, but it kept happening. So eventually we changed our phone number and that we stopped it for a bit. After a few weeks, though, we started getting the calls again. Nicole began calling him Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody got his jollies calling us and not saying anything. Mr. Nobody was just lonely. He was a practical joker. He wanted friends. Nicole started including him in her mighty nightly prayers. And bless Mr. Nobody, she'd said. "Any good jokes today, Nicole?" I asked from the deck. "Any interesting news?" Nicole rolled her eyes like I was an idiot. 2 yellow jackets circled the rim of my glass. I moved it, but they followed. They liked sugary drinks. I've never been stung, but wasps terrify me. Always had. Right here. I knew it was wimpy and see, here's the one thing too, I don't know how to read. I knew it was wimpy and irrational, but when they flew near me, my head filled with hot static and I lashed out with my hands. Once, before the baby was born, he'd hike up Mountain Maxwell and they were looking at the view. And the wasp came buzzing around my head and wouldn't go away. And I started running straight off for the roof off. Oh my god. And started running straight for the drop off. Dad grabbed me and I shouted that I could have been killed. "Get a grip," he shouted. I always remember those words when I saw a wasp. Get a grip. There were a lot of things I was supposed to get a grip on. I just wasn't much good at it. Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Once I look up at the chat, I completely lose track of where I am. A third wasp flew in, and this one had different markings. Instead of black and yellow, it was mostly white, with a few silver gray stripes. It was the same shape as the others, just a little bit bigger. And the 2 yellow jackets took off, and the white and silver one settled into the rim of my glass. When I tried to shoo it away, it veered towards my face, and I pushed back into my chair so hard it fell over with a bang. "Steve, just leave it alone," my father said. "If you make a big fuss, they're most likely gonna sting you." I couldn't help it. I especially didn't like it when they flew around my face. "Where is it?" I said. It's gone away, said Mom. It hadn't gone away. I could feel it crawling in my hair. With a shout, I tried to smack it off. And suddenly I felt a precise searing heat in my palm. I pulled back my hand, and in the fleshy part near my thumb was a bright red dot, and already the skin around it was feeling hot. Did you get stung? My mother asked. I couldn't answer. I just stared. Honestly, grumbled Dad, coming down to look. Come on inside and let's give it a wash. The bottom half of my hand started to feel fat, like it did when you came inside the house after a really cold winter day and started to warm up suddenly. It looks a bit swollen, Dad says. Numbly, I compared my both hands. It was way redder than the other one. It'll be fine. I didn't feel fine. A big wave of heat flushed through me. It started in the center of my back and radiated across my shoulders, then down to my arms. I could feel my heart racing. I don't feel right. I sat down. Do you think he's allergic? I heard my mom say in concern as she pointed. Look. I was wearing a t-shirt, and on my upper arm, a blotchy red rash had appeared. Is it itchy? Dad asked. I don't know, I say numbly. Does it itch? He asked impatiently. Yeah, it's itchy, Mom said. His hand looks pretty swollen. You should take him in. Do you mean the hospital? Just saying the word made me feel like electricity was jolting through me. My heart pumped. I felt hot all over. Am I gonna die? Dad sighed. Steve, you're not gonna die. You're panicking is all, okay? Deep breath, buddy. I was glad Dad didn't seem too concerned, only weary. If he'd been as worrying as looking at Mom, I would have flipped all out together. We should have just rented a room at the hospital, he said. The hospital wasn't far, and the nurse who first saw me didn't seem to think it was very important. She gave me some Benadryl to drink, and we found seats in the crowded waiting room. Dad read his magazine, but I didn't want to touch anything in case there were germs. I looked around at other people. Most of them didn't look too sick, but they were sick, or else they wouldn't have been here. And they might have something to do with the catch. Might have something I could catch. Every 15 minutes, I went to the bathroom to wash my hands, then slathered on hand sanitizer from the wall dispenser. I tried to breathe in little sips, but so I didn't take in too much hospital air. We waited a couple of hours, and by the time I saw the doctor, the rash on my arm was fading, and my hand wasn't quite as swollen. You had a mild to moderate allergic reaction, he said. Shadows sagged beneath his eyes. He didn't really look at me when he talked. I guess he looked at quite enough people that day, but next time you get stung, it might be worse, so I'm prescribing you an EpiPen for you. I knew what those were. I've been in the staff room at school at once, seeing an entire bulletin board pinned with Ziploc bags containing the names and photos of kids and their EpiPens. The doctor said to Dad, you might also want to get him a course of desensitization shots. That way, you don't have to worry about the EpiPen. Making sure it's the right page. In the parking lot, when Dad got behind the wheel in the car, he gave a big sigh before turning the key in the ignition. It was the same hospital where the baby has been born, the same one Dad and Mom kept going back almost every day. We didn't talk much on the way home. I felt bad about getting stung and making him drive me to the hospital. He looked tired. He glanced over a couple times and asked how I was feeling, and I said I was fine, and he nodded and smiled. He patted me on the knee. Sorry, I was short-tempered with you, he said. That's okay. We'll book you those shots as soon as we can. I wasn't too crazy about getting a bunch of needles jabbed into me, but I said thanks. The night when I slept deep, and that was the first time I saw the angels. I'm gonna drink some water. And get some water right now. Oof. A big bottle of water. Also, the way that my glasses are angled, I can kind of like see the book in doubles, so it's kind of hard to keep track of what like sentence I'm on right now. And check the camera. Okay, perfect. Okay, page 17. I get that with some of those glasses myself. Yeah, just unfortunate weird angle. Then I have to like pull my glasses down. Okay, that's a little better. I still get scared at night. When I sleep, I pull the covers right up to over my head and leave only the little hole that I can breathe through. Honestly, same. But not see through. I don't want to see what's out there. I've slept for this like as long as I can remember. It's embarrassing and I never tell anyone about it. I have a lot of nightmares. One of the worst ones is that I wake up in my bed, still under my covers, but I know there's something or someone standing at the foot of my bed. I'm too terrified to move or call out. And then there's like a sound like paper tearing and my blankets are yanked off my body. I can feel the weight of them disappear and the sudden sweep of cold air. And I know I'm totally exposed to whatever is standing there, and that's when I wake up for real. When I was little, I would call it from my mom, and it was always mom, and she'd come sit on the edge of the bed, I'm guessing? My bed, and settle me down. Sometimes I stayed and waited for me to get back to sleep. Sometimes, though, a few minutes, she would head back to her own room and tell me to carry out. Okay. She'd head back to her own room and tell me to call out if I needed her. And I'd wrap myself up and really try to get really hard to. I wrap myself up and try really hard to get to sleep. Oh my goodness. See, when I read to myself, I shotgun everything because I don't even read like the in between words like ah and the and my. I just like just get like the main words and like I read the book and I still understand what's going on. So like actually reading them, it's like I don't even know what that is. Where am I? Okay. Let's check in the camera. Back when there was a show on TV I liked about secret agents who had a hidden lab. To get into it, they flipped a switch and part of the floor slowly dropped down to their underground layer. I wish my bed were like that, so that whenever I was scared, I could just press a button and my entire bed would just sink down. And then the floor would just slide over top of me, and nothing could get past it. No one can break through. I would be completely safe and untouchable in my little nest. But I didn't have a bed like that, so I listened to the house clicking and settling, doing all its night's things, working the furnace, keeping the fridge cold, and all the other secret things it did at night. And I tried to get back to sleep, but sometimes I couldn't. And I'd start feeling it again, with that shape in my room, that thing watching from the end of my bed, and I'd call it out again. And this time, Mom would stagger in and do what I'd wanted her to do all along, ask if she wanted to sleep in their room for the night. Yeah, reading out loud is much different. Yeah, you realize it's like, oh, this is what English looks like. This is what the English language is. Just checking the camera. I feel like I'm always tilting my book. Okay, where was I? When I was younger, I spent a lot of time in their bed. I slept beside Mom, right on the edge, trying to take up as little room as possible, because I didn't want them to stop letting me sleep there. I never told any of my friends about this, ever, that I was scared of the dark. Oops, I think I made this brighter. I don't think it made a difference. I never told any of my friends about this, ever. That I was scared of the dark, that I had nightmares, that I'd sometimes sleep in my parents' bed, the night after the wasp sting. I could feel the nightmare coming on in my bed, like a thunderous cloud gathering in the horizon, a dark shape. Assembled itself at the foot of my bed and just stood there watching me. But when the most amazing thing happened, there was a sound, a kind of low musical trill, and with it, points of light. I knew because I looked. For the first time ever, I turned in my dream and looked. More and more tiny little bits of light surrounded the dark shape and landed on it, and the darkness started to dissolve and disappear, and I felt such a relief. Suddenly, I was in a bright cave-like space, lying on my stomach, and in front of me was her voice. "We come because of the baby," she said. "We've come to help." "Who's we?" I asked. "We come when people are scared or in trouble. We come when there's grief." I looked around all the glittering creatures on the walls and in the air. "Are you angels?" You can think of us as that way." I stood up. I tried to look more closely at the angel in front of me. Her head alone seemed as big as me. It was a bit like standing before that huge stuffed lion at the museum, except the mane and the whiskers were all light, and the eyes were huge, and the mouth never moved. She was magnificent, and I wasn't sure she had a mouth at all, but I was aware, every time she spoke, of something grazing my face and all the smell of the freshly mown grass. "Now," she said, "my first question is, how are you?" "Okay, I guess." She nodded impatiently, waiting. "Everyone's worried about the baby," I added. "It's dreadful when these things happen." She said, "It's common, you know. There's comfort in that. You're not alone in this." "No, I guess not. And your little sister, how is she?" "She's a pain, as always." I was beginning to feel a little bit more at ease. "Ah yes, little sisters. I don't think she really understands about the baby being sick. Really sick." "That's just as well. Your parents? They're super worried." "Naturally." "And scared." "Of course they are. Nothing scarier than having a sick child. And one so newly born and so vulnerable. It's the worst thing for parents. And that's why we've come to help." "How can you help?" "We'll make things better." "You mean the baby?" "Of course. No one knows what's going wrong with him exactly. We do." "Angels know everything?" She laughed. "Everything is a tall order, but we know enough to know what's wrong with the baby. It's, oh my god, what is this word? It's congenial? No. Congenital. Yes. There's a T in that, and I completely forgot that was congenital. What does that mean? He was born with it. Don't you worry. I know you are worried. It's not something you can catch or get later in life." I wonder how she knew I was a worrier, but I guess angels knew all sorts of things without needing to be told. She said, "It's a tiny little mistake inside him, and we could fix that mistake." "You can?" I said with a rush of hope. "You know about DNA, don't you?" I remembered it from science, all the little pieces inside each of our cells, like a spiral ladder that made us who we were. "Well," she continued, "sometimes the bits get mixed up, and it's the tiniest mix-up, but it can lead to bigger problems. People are very complicated inside." "When?" I asked. "When can you do all this?" "Soon enough. You'll see." And then I woke up. Nice. I'm gonna take a little stretch. This is the second chapter, I guess. I think I'm gonna put my dragon away because I think it's messing up with how the stand is sitting. Because it's like messing with it, I guess. When I sit in a desk, like I have a pillow pet in front of me, so it's like I'm not bending my back as much. But I'm gonna drink some water. I actually took a Halls before I started this. Because I thought that would help with the reading. A Halls? Like a Ricola? Like a little cough drop? I don't know, is Halls a Canadian thing? Or am I just like... Oh, yeah. Okay, just wondering. Because sometimes I just like say things like, oh, like Shoppers Drug Mart. And they're like, do you mean CVS? I was like, oh, wait. Ooh, I was trying to do something. I was like, oh, big mistake. I dropped my glove. Oh, that's my real hand. You didn't see that. I put the gloves on because I have really crusty, dusty hands, but that was like 2 seconds. Like I bite on them. It's nasty color. Because I eat everything with my hands, that's why. And it matches the aesthetic, so. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I gotta keep an eye on this. This is the worst reading session to ever exist. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't use a freaking stand. I gotta put like a weight on it or something. Okay. There. I had awful people chosen to read in school before. Yeah. Reading in front of people is like nerve-wracking because it's like you're not doing it fast enough for them. It's like, guys, I'm trying. Or like they're just bad at pronunciation. Yeah, if you're wondering how I'm holding this up, I have my phone on like a light, Costco light thing. And I just like tied it down with some bands because I don't have like a proper like phone stand, but it works. The issue is like there's this bulbous part that like I have to be careful of not like hitting. But like I'm terrible at pronunciation. Like I can barely text sometimes. I have to search up what certain words are spelled and pronounced and stuff. I used to be so good in like elementary school, but I don't know what happened. I thought like getting rid of like the automatic word detection thing would help with like texting, but I don't think it have. Okay, on to chapter 2, I guess. I think this is chapter 2. By the way, yeah, if you're like also like this is like really sweaty. These were the only gloves I had, so but like I guess I'll make it work. I'm wearing a fleece jacket with leather gloves in the summertime, but I'm dedicated. Words are hard, yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, I gotta adjust this. I thought I got everything good. Hold on. Okay, yeah. That should be good. Yeah, I wish there was like a way that I can like hold this lamp down, but I can't. Because I want to put like my hand on it so it's not moving all the time, but I have to use this to keep the pages down. Okay. You know, this is better than I expected, like as long as it's not like disconnecting or anything. Okay, now I have to read. You know, I said how I like brought like 2 books out just in case if I get through this really fast. I don't think that's the case. Okay, just checking my camera, see if everything's streaming. Yeah, everything looks good. Okay. I waited 3 days before I told my mom about the dream. I wasn't going to at first because I had a lot of weird dreams and sometimes they seemed to worry her. So I'd stop telling her. I didn't want her to worry. I just didn't want her to think I was a freak. But today, she looked so tired as she fed the baby. I thought this one dream might make her feel better. She smiled when I told it, but it was a wistful smile. You always had the most interesting dreams, she said. Maybe it means things will be okay. When I was little, she and Dad had sometimes gone to church, but they pretty much stopped a few years ago. The occasional Easter or Christmas. We didn't talk about God or anything. Nicole blessed people at night, and she must have gotten that from Mom or Dad, but Mom also read her horoscopes every day. She said it was just for fun, so I didn't think I'd... Oh my god, I almost choked. I didn't think she'd take it seriously. Once I heard her say she was more than us... Oh my god, I knew that would happen. Ah! The world is trying to tell me something. This is supposed to be ASMR, but this is the most stressful thing. But I'm dedicated. I'll do this for 2 hours. Once I heard her say that there was more than just us in the universe, but I wasn't sure what she meant by that exactly. Aliens? Some kind of supernatural forces, maybe? I didn't know if she believed in a god, though. All I knew is that this dream made me feel better, waking up from it. I just feel happier. It happened sometimes. A dream that cast a kind of hopeful light from the night into daytime. Mom was feeding the baby from a bottle. She tried to breastfeed him, but he wasn't very good at nursing. Something about the mouth muscles wasn't being strong enough. Afterward, the baby was sleepy, and Mom just put him back into his crib. When I looked at the baby, here's what I saw. A baby. He looked normal to me. Ugly, like a turtle, his neck all wrinkly. Tight little red fists. Nicole had looked like that when she was been born, and I looked the same too, in the pictures. Here's what the baby could do. He'd sleep a lot, he made funny faces, he kicked his arms and legs, he snuck out his tongue, he cried, he made... Is that the dinosaur? Pterodactyl sounds? I thought it was pterodactyl. Or maybe the P is silent. He was a noisy gulper. Sometimes he sputtered and choked, and my mom patted him on the back. He gripped your little fingers with his fist. He looked at the bright lights. He looked past you, and sometimes right at you. Sometimes his eyes were... what were his eyes? Half open. Sometimes they were wide open, and bright and curious. He kicked his skinny legs, and stuck out his arms at nothing at all. But when I looked at the baby, mostly what I thought of was all the little things I couldn't see, all the things that were going wrong inside him. I felt stupid having a baby sister. I didn't need one, but Nicole did, and I didn't want to have to look after all of the times Mom and Dad were at work or taking the baby to his appointments. Her name was Vanessa, and she was a zoology student at the university. She was taking a course over the summer, and the rest of the time she worked for us. She spoke very calmly, and sometimes I wished she'd talk faster. I got impatient waiting for her to finish sentences. She lived in a basement apartment a few streets over. Her clothes had a musty, scalpy smell. Nicole really liked her. She said Vanessa was good at playing castle and talking about bugs and horses. I was inside watching TV, where it was all air-conditioned, and there were no wasps. Dad had showed Vanessa my new EpiPen and where we'd keep it in the medicine cabinet in the downstairs bathroom. Through the sliding patio doors, I could see into the backyard. Vanessa was on the deck. She walked into the table and poured a drink of lemonade for Nicole, who was on the swings, and then Vanessa stared at the wooden table and kept staring at her. Her look was so intense. She made my skin crawl. I went to the door and slid it open. What's the matter? Shh! Without looking up, she waved over me. She nodded. There was a big wasp on the table. It had pale markings, like the one I had stung me a few days before. I never seen one like this, she said. It's not a yellow jacket, I told her. Or a hornet. She seemed genuinely curious. Maybe it's an albino? It's definitely a social wasp, a nester. How do you know? Look at what it's doing. The wasp was scraping its head along the surface on the table. There was a faint clicking sound. You see the mandibles? She whispered. Why is it eating the wood? Not eating it. The adults just eat nectar. So what is it doing? Collecting it. Behind the wasp, I saw a pale line where the surface has been scraped off. Pretty too? Okay. It takes a bit of wood fiber, mixes it with its own saliva, and then regurgitates it. Why? To build the nest. Look, there it goes. I took a step backward and the wasp lifted off and rose into the air. Almost in the next moment, another insect landed heavily on the table. It took me a second to realize it was actually two bugs. The one on top was a big silvery wasp, and it was clutching onto a dead spider beneath it. The spider was bigger than the wasp, and it looked at the wasp a couple of tries and lifted off again. Slowly, like an airplane, with heavy cargo, it rose into the air with its kill, slewing off in the same direction as the first wasp. My breakfast lapped greasily against the sides of my stomach. Looks like you got a nest nearby, Vanessa said, holding her hand to her eyes as she tracked the wasps. It was high up now and didn't seem interested in stinging me, so I followed Vanessa as she walked along the side of our house, past Dad's favorite Japanese maple. We tilted our heads way back. See it? She said. Way up there. Under the eaves, right at the peak of the roof, was a tiny semi-spherical ball. A few shapes moved around on the outside. Our wasp disappeared inside. It's all different fibers, from trees or plants or wood tables. That's why the nest could have several different shades. It's just kind of gray, I said. I looked more closely at the wooden posts of our fence, and everywhere I saw little white lines. The wasp was eating our fence and eating our fence and table to make their nest. It's amazing, Vanessa said. They're amazing little architects and engineers. I'm allergic, I reminded her. I know exactly where your EpiPen is. The nest was above to the right of the baby's room. From down the street came the sound of a bell ringing. Nicole ran over, looking all excited. It's the knife guy! She bolted into the house so I can watch from the front door. Nicole was fascinated by him. He started coming around this summer. He drove a strange stubby van without doors, slowly ringing his bell to see if anyone needed their knives sharpened. Vanessa and I followed Nicole around the house. My little sister threw open the front door and stood on the porch waiting. It was weird how excited she got about the knife guy. On the side of the van were a lot of faded pictures of knives and big crooked hand-painted letters. The word grindy, what is it called, my guy? Grindy G, because the last N was so worn out. Okay. I'm like, that was a choice. That was choices right there. The van glided me towards us. I didn't know how he made any money. I never saw a single person stop at him and rush out into their kitchen knives. Last month before the baby was born, Dad had flagged him down. I think it was just to give Nicole a thrill. Nicole had stood with us at the curb as the van pulled over, and the knife guy stepped out in his coveralls. Before, I just glanced at him in passing. He was an older guy, surprisingly tall, a bit stooped. His cheeks were hollowed out, and he had gray stubble for hair. I looked at his bones. He looked like his bones were meant for an even bigger body. That's an interesting description. Dad had dragged his rotary lawnmower out from the garage. The blades were getting pretty dull, he'd said, and asked for the knife guy if he could sharpen them. The guy gave a shrug, pursed his lips, and made it sound like, eh. So we didn't know if he was saying yes or no, but he went into the back of his van and came out with a screwdriver and removed the mower blades one by one. Nicole watched everything enthralled. The knife guy smiled at her as he looked at the blades from the lawnmower, and then let out her watch from the open back of the van as she sharpened them on the grinding stone. It wasn't until the end, when he was putting the blades back into the mower, that I noticed his hands. They were very large with big knuckles, but he had only 4 fingers on each hand, and they were weirdly shaped and splayed, so they looked more like pincers. Afterwards, Nicole said to Dad, "I guess he's not very good at his job." "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "He cut off his own fingers." Dad laughed. "He didn't cut them off, sweetie. He was born like that. I knew someone once who had the same condition." "Oh," said Nicole. "Anyway, didn't seem to slow him down anyway, did it?" Dad ran to the mower off a patch of lawn. Dad? Okay. Dad ran the mower off a patch of the lawn, and grass clippings flew up, leaving a clean wake. "Much better," Dad said. Now, as Vanessa and I watched the van approach, Nicole looked up at us imploringly. "Can we bring him some knives?" "I'm not sure your parents would want that, Nicole," Vanessa says. "We have to ask them first." She sagged. "Okay." As the van crawled along our house, the knife guy leaned down over his steering wheel so he could peer out. Nicole waved, the knife guy waved back and gave a big smile, and stopped. Maybe he didn't understand we had nothing for him today. He didn't think his English was too good. No, I don't think his English was too good. He seemed familiar with me somehow, but not in a good way. "We're okay," I said. "Thank you." "Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks you. Okay," he said, and then he rang the bell again and kept moving on down the street. When he turned to the corner, I realized I've been holding my breath. I was kind of confused with that interaction. I thought the guy was going to fix the blade, but then... Oh, and then the lawnmower, it was okay, so he decided not to. Maybe I'm illiterate. I don't know. Okay, next one. That night at dinner, Mom and Dad weren't talking much, but when they come back from the hospital, they looked pretty serious, and I was afraid to ask them what had happened. Nicole didn't notice. Between mouthful of mashed potatoes and fish sticks, she talked about castles and metal and her favorite knight and all its special skills. Her phone was under her hand, like she was expecting an important call at any moment. "Did Mr. Nobody have any good jokes today?" Dad asked her. Nicole frowned and then shook her head. He wasn't in a joking mood. "Ah," Dad said. There's a wasp's nest in our house," I said. "Way up high under the roof." "Really?" Mom said. "Vanessa and I saw it. Shouldn't we have an exterminator or something?" Dad nodded. "Yeah, I'll call someone." Mom asked, "Did you make the appointment with the allergist for Steve?" "I'll do it tomorrow," Dad said. "How's the baby?" I asked finally. "We've got an appointment with the specialist. She's supposed to be very good, one with the few people who knew about these things." Nicole said, "And after that, the baby will be all better." Dad smiled. "I don't know about that, Nick, but we know more anyway." "I was sick when I was born too," she said. "No, you weren't," Dad replied. Indignantly, Nicole said, "Yes, I was. I was yellow." Dad sniffed out a laugh. "Oh, that was just jaundice. Postnatal jaundice. A lot of babies have it. It clears up in a couple of weeks." Mom looked at Dad. "We were worried though, remember? It seemed worrying at the time." I hated it when her eyes got wet. It made me scared, like she wasn't my mom anymore, but something fragile that might break. After dinner, when Mom was giving Nicole her bath, I was helping Dad clean up the dishes. He said to me, "How are you doing, buddy?" I shrugged. "Fine. A bit crazy around here." "Is the baby gonna die?" I asked. He was doing a pretty lousy job arranging the plates in the dishwasher. Usually he was very particular. "No, I don't think so. It's not like that, really. There's A lot that's he searched not working like it should, and some of that they can treat, but a lot of it has to do with his level of ability and how he might develop in the future, whether he'll be low functioning or high functioning. Let me check here. Low functioning, I said. I sounded like something you'd say about a machine, not a person. I know, it's an awful term. I rearranged the baking dish so it wasn't taking up half the rack. So, we're high functioning? He gave a small chuckle. Supposedly, though some days it doesn't feel like that at all, doesn't it? I was wondering if he was thinking of me. I definitely felt low functioning sometimes. It's something to do with his DNA, isn't it? I said. He looked at me. That's right. Congenital, I asked. It made me feel better to have the words, as if knowing the names of things meant and had some power over them. Right, he was born with it. It's very rare, apparently. There aren't a lot of record cases yet. It only got named a couple of years ago. Excuse me. I was about to ask what the name was, but I didn't. I wasn't sure why. This was a word I didn't want to know. Later, when I was going to bed, Mom hugged me and thanked me for being so brave. I'm not brave, I said. I'm sorry we have been away so much. I won't be like this for always. I didn't want her to get teary again, so I said, we should do something about the wasp nest. I don't want to get stung again, and it's pretty close to the baby's room, I added, hoping that it would make her take it more seriously. We'll take care of it. Did you ever believe in angels? I asked. She smiled. When I was little, I think I might have had. Not now? I don't know that I do, Steve. It's a nice idea, but I don't think so. Before I turned out my bedside light, I went through my 2 lists. First, I read all the things that were to be grateful for. A lot of the time I felt pretty low, and I didn't know why really, and I thought this was a good way of reminding myself all of the good things in my life. The list was pretty long by now, about 4 pages torn from a notebook. Sometimes I added new things. The last thing was our baby. Next thing was the list of people I wanted to keep safe. I didn't really know what I was asking. Maybe it was God, but I didn't really believe in God, so this wasn't praying exactly. It was a bit like how Nicole blessed people at night. This was all me wanting to make sure that all the people I knew wouldn't get hurt. I started with Mom and Dad and Nicole and the baby, and then I went through my grandparents and my uncles and my aunts and my cousins and my friends, Brendan and Sanjay. If I lost my place or started worrying that I'd skipped someone, or I began at the beginning again just to make sure, I always ended with the baby to make me doubly sure I didn't forget him. Then I turned off the light, pulled the covers over my head, adjusted my breathing hole, and slept. Just a tiny break. Gonna get some water. And I haven't read this book in a long time, like probably a couple years. So this is all kind of new to me. Like, I actually have another Halls here. I'm kind of contemplating whether I should take it or not. But, I've just started to realize kind of like what he meant by like low functioning and high functioning, and it started to click more, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't get it the first time. But there's no way like a baby can be like that sick though. Or maybe that's like the reason, right? Like they're looking at these things and like It's like something that's not been named, so they think the baby's like really, really, really sick. But it's really just like autism or something. This book was made like in 2015, but I'm not sure what like year it was meant to be in. Okay. It seems like my OBS is showing that there is some lagging, so I'm gonna just look at my second monitor here, see what's going on. Because I am running this camera on like Wi-Fi, so I think that's why. I'm gonna see, like I haven't tried the tutorial for like a LAN setup, like Ethernet or whatever, so maybe next time I do this, just try that instead. Okay, this might take a while. I'm gonna just make sure that the second monitor is okay. Seems like it's laggy. Just like doing some movements, just checking to see what's going on. Because like everyone's like asleep right now, so I don't know what the hell. If someone's downloading an entire movie right now, I don't know. They're BitTorrenting an entire movie right now. But I think I'll continue, because... Okay, I have to start sometimes. Sorry if everything's laggy. Again, working everything on Wi-Fi, so... I mean, that's like the common story of like my streams in general, not just like hand cam. I think it's third chapter, so... he doesn't name, like, put number 3 or whatever, so it's kind of annoying. I didn't think I'd get to see him again, but that night I did. I was in a beautiful lighted cave and my focus was a bit clearer this time. The walls reminded me of those rice paper blinds Brendan had in his room. The cave's curved walls soared around me. It felt good to be inside, like feeling the sun warm on your face through the car window, and even though it was winter outside. And I was aware of the angels moving about overhead on the walls, on high domed ceilings. Wings aflutter, a pleasant thrum filling the air, and then suddenly one was much closer to me, and I knew instantly it was the same one I liked to talk to before. "Hello again," she said. I couldn't focus properly on her face. It was like the time the eye doctor dilated my pupils and I couldn't read anything, or see anything close up. The angel seemed so near that she was just a blur of light, and it was all black and white. I didn't feel at all afraid of her. Light radiated from her face. Her dark eyes was very large. No ears that I could make out. Her mouth was somewhat sideways. Her face was divided by geometric patterns. "How are you?" she asked me. With each word I felt it was like being caressed. Something very soft brushing my cheek, my throat. "Fine." "And your family? Holding up all right, I hope?" She was very polite. "I think so. It seems I should say something back." How are you all doing?" "Oh, very busy, as you can see. Very, very busy. As always." "I didn't think I'd see you again." "Well, of course you'll see me again." I liked her an awful lot. She seemed so easy and friendly, and I'd never been so good at having friends. At school, I spent a lot of time reading at recess and lunch. I did crosswords. I liked those, and I didn't like the way kids talked to one another. I was not a very popular kid, never had been. "We're here to help, and we'll stay until our work is done." Fixing the baby? I said attentively. I wanted to make sure I understood properly from last time. Absolutely. That's what we're all here for. There was a brief pause, and I looked around at all the beautiful caves, and the light alone made me joyful. When will you fix the baby? Very soon. Don't worry. What I don't understand is... I didn't want to be rude. Go on, she said gently. Well, how are you gonna fix the baby? Would it be some angelic surgery? Did it involve spells or actual medicines, or just words of power? Would they just touch him with those magical gossamer caresses I was feeling now? I don't know how to pronounce that. She said, first of all, fix. It's a rather odd choice of words, isn't it? I laughed with her. Yeah. We talk about fixing cars or dishwashers. This is a human being, the most glorious and complicated creature on the planet. You just don't go in there and repair them like an engine. It's incredibly difficult at the best of times. I'm sure it is, and in this case, quite impossible. Oop. I think my thing just bugged out. My thingy bugged out. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think you guys can still hear me though. Okay, I'm gonna try to fix this. I'm just gonna check to see. Okay, I think we're